surprise, surprise, another AM edition of Good Afternoon Michigan Football, if you will. And we've got a three-way here today, talking Michigan football, as always, Jim Scarcelli. And we have a special guest, former Wolverine John Duerr, who is on the screen along with all of us, and it's great to see you all. You know, Scar, tell everybody about John.
Denny, I'm fired up, man. You know, we're going to get through this little distraction that we're dealing with, but the football team is good. Michigan people are fired up, positive. We're going to move forward. But I got one of my teammates on here today with us, Denny. When I think of John Duerr, the first thing that I think about is team guy, highly respected. John's a couple years younger than me. I was there 81 to 85. Dude got there 84 to 87, right, John? Right. You were there those years. So he was a young guy when I was there. We were in the same defensive meeting room. John was an inside backer. He's out of St.Alphonsus in Dearborn. So we were in that same room with Coach Moeller. I was in there with him for 2 years. And I can just say this. He was a tough guy, a smart guy, a sharp guy, and highly respected, okay? And when I left, I didn't know this, that Denny, when I left there, that John ended up winning the Champion of the Year. This is a huge award. I'm gonna just real quick. What I never forget this. When I was when Anthony Carter was the senior year, he wins that. We have a banquet. So they introduced the MVP Anthony Carter, the most valuable defensive player Robert Thompson, the most valuable blah blah blah. But the final guy was a guy named Joe English. He won the Champion of the Year. Now, John, you weren't there yet.
He was a GA in the weight.
Okay, but when he was a player, he got the Champion of the Year, and the whole freaking team stood up and went crazy. Okay, way more than they did for Anthony Carter or anybody else. So, John, I didn't know this until John and I talked about recently that he won that Champion of the Year. So, Denny, it's a highly, highly respected honor that your teammates and coach, they don't give that to anybody. Okay, so I just want to say that it's a great thing. I didn't know you won that. It's a highly respected thing. Dude's a team guy. He's a funny guy. You guys are going to love him. He's a knowledgeable guy. He's coached football. He's played football, coached a lot of ball. He understands the game. He's on Twitter. He's got a great following. He's mixing it up. He ain't afraid to mix it up. But I'm fired. Sweet Dew, that's what I call him. Sweet Dew is in the house, talking ball, loving Michigan. Go Blue. Here he is.
That's pretty amazing introduction, Jim, and I hope I live up to everything, but thanks a lot, man. That means a lot. Appreciate it.
Well, hey, John, I got to say that over the years, it's been a long time that on Sunday morning, after watching Michigan football game, I will find myself, scrolling through Twitter, and I found myself stopping on, this hashtag Duerr on Twitter, breaking down the film, low-hanging fruit. And it became something over the years that I watched regularly on Sunday mornings. And
appreciate the follow.
Man behind the whole thing. So I love that work that you do on Sunday mornings. It's great.
Appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I just kind of started that, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. It was just an organic. I am not technologically sophisticated. So I just used my phone to videotape a couple of plays and made a comment about whether, maybe it was a step in the wrong direction or what went right, what went wrong. And it just kind of grew from there. And I didn't have very many followers for a while, but then Jim started coaching and it just kind of blew up. And now it's kind of a regular thing. My family, they know, stay away from the living room for the next 5 hours because dude's working. So I enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun. Michigan football, of course, a huge passion of mine, and I'm happy to do it. I really do it because I love it.
Well, you're going to find out when you go live that you can run into some technical difficulties, and I'm not saying that we have, although Keegan, right off the jump, he says there's no audio, so we got a hold of us. Oh, no, now he comes back and says it's all good. That's good to hear. Because that nice 5-minute intro that we gave you, we'd have had
out the window
and Scar there talking, but it looks like we're okay. and that's the good news. So we're all set there, and away we go. Well, we do have, it is technically the start of the college football season coming up this weekend with week 0, if you are so inclined, and I'll be taking in some of those games. We've got quarterbacks, offensive coordinator schemes that Michigan will run into this year. It'll be interesting to see what you guys have to say about the different schemes. The Michigan defense, Wink has probably already looked into that himself a little bit at what Michigan will be preparing for. Now, you guys, it's fall camp, but then you get into next Monday at this time, it'll be game week, and who better to tell us about that transition than guys that actually played and Scar coach for 25 years. You have to just turn the page, or how does that work? But we'll start with what went down on Friday. People have had the weekend to absorb it, and now I know a lot of people are ready to turn the page, and we are turning the page, but we did not have Scar's input on what he thought of what went down on Friday. And of course, John, we'll see what you have to say. Scar, I know. Let's start out and let's hear what you had to say. What you have to say about everything that went down on Friday.
Danny, I don't want to go more than 2 minutes because we got a great football team. We are highly motivated. We got players, we got coaches, we got high hopes, and we're not going to dwell on this distraction. I want to say on 2 minutes, and I don't want to talk about it again.
Woo!
I'm gonna hit it hard and be done. Okay.
All right.
Ward Manuel, college football chairman. Why isn't he punished? What's going on with that? No one's saying nothing about Ward Manuel. That's a problem that bothers me. That's one thing. I have this question. We sat our coach 6 games and now 2 this year and more. How much did that go into the punishment? And if we would have lost, Danny, the morning that Jim found out at Penn State, if we would have lost that game, because the NCAA, they did everything they could possibly do to screw our players in 23. Let's put the coach on the bench. Let's tell him the morning of the frickin' Penn State game, we go out and we beat Penn State, NCAA's pissed. We go out, we beat Ohio State, NCAA's pissed. We win the Big Ten championship. We keep winning. And then this Harbaugh guy goes and wins a national championship. The question I have, if we would have lost a couple of those games, would the punishment have been different? That's one question that because I think, and now this year they tell us in 2 weeks left before 2 weeks before the season starts, again, to screw our players. They tried to screw our players in 23 by taking our coach. Anyway, people say it's not no big thing. Taking your coach is a factor. So that's one thing I want people to think about. And I really want to get into focusing on this team. I want to put this thing behind us. Chris Partridge, I hope you sue the hell out of somebody. Now, I don't know if he can sue the NCAA or if he can sue Michigan. If they discredited him, they ran him. The guy was thrown out of football, and now it's all good. He's all good. So, Danny, those are really my thoughts. I don't want to beat it up anymore, but they've done everything they could to destroy the 23 teams' players by taking the coach away. But Jim was able to overcome it because he delegated. Great leaders delegate, okay? And they empower. So he empowered his coordinators. He don't call, he was part of the collaboration on offense. He didn't do nothing on defense. So if he's not there, it's irrelevant. And he was able to win because of how he was as a leader by delegating and empowering. And that pissed off the NCAA. So that's why I think we still got even more punishment. But I really don't want to get into much more than that, guys. Those are my thoughts. Go ahead, Du.
The first thing I want to talk about is Chris Partridge and how he was exonerated and how I agree with you. I hope he gets something out of this because that guy was dragged through the mud. People flat out lied about what he did or what his involvement was or why he was let go. And this proves that all of those were fabricated. And that's what bothers me about investigations like this. It gives people years to make up whatever story they want. Pete Thamel can leak stuff at any point without having all the facts. And I'm glad it's behind us. I'm glad Partridge is exonerated. And I'm glad that Michigan is appealing this fine, because this fine is ridiculous. This is 4 times more than the previous high fine doled out by the NCAA. And I do think that Michigan should appeal it. I'm just happy it's gone. This, I believe, all stems from the NCAA's vendetta against Harbaugh. They didn't like what he said when he came in early. They didn't like his traveling camps around the country. They didn't like that he talked about players having the ability to transfer. They didn't like to talk about sharing the revenue. Once you stick your hand in the NCAA's pocket, that gets their attention. And I just don't like how it all shook out. I'm glad it's behind us. I'm focused in on this season. We got a good team. We've got a lot of returning players. We got a really bright future at quarterback. So let those guys, it's always the adults that ruin it for the kids' football game. Always. I don't care what level it is. It's the adults that screw it up. And they screwed it up in this one. Let them fight it out and let these kids go play some football.
That's good stuff. And for me, Friday I was on here after going through everything, and I came away with it being a win for Michigan because they are eligible for the playoffs. I didn't know. I know that there was a lot of people that were saying they would never, vacate anything. Those people were right, unless there was ineligible players. So Michigan being eligible for the playoffs, if you are a Michigan fan, I completely understand how you take a step back and you say it's a win. And all those things you point out, Scar, about 23, I mean, I had never seen, people always talk about the precedent. That's why when, you had Batiti there, people were saying, oh, well, he might suspend Harbaugh for these last 3 games. I said, no, that's preposterous. That's not going to happen. It's never happened. There's going to be no suspension. And then there was a suspension. So I had egg on my face there. And who knows what would have happened. Everybody would feel different about everything if Michigan would have lost one of those games. That's my feeling there. But I think Michigan was lucky that Stalions got caught when he did. This thing seemed to be escalating on what he was doing. I do believe that he knowingly broke the bylaw. I think he's an embarrassment to Michigan football, and he tarnished the program's legacy. However, I'm turning the page and I'm ready for the season. So I'm not going to be focused. It's not like I'm going to be sitting around every day talking about, oh, this is the ruinate. No, it happened. He did it. If you read that 74-page report, I don't think there's any other way to come out of that when you talk about specifically Stalions. But I'm ready to turn the page and move on if you guys are.
Oh, yeah.
One last comment, and I'm freaking done.
All right.
Dude, 40 years ago, we were teammates. I was Derek Moore, man. I was TJ Guy, a returning starter at the outside linebacker position. And, dude, you and I know how much work, spring ball, grind, focus, lift and running goes into where these guys are. And they do not need to be cheated talking about junk. So I'm all done. I was those dudes 40 years ago. I'm talking about Michigan football. I'm talking about this great defense, these great coaches, these great players we got coming back. Done. It's buried. I'm in the submarine, dude. We're in the submarine, baby. I'm done. Go blue.
Go blue.
Well, there it is. And now we do turn the page and we go to this upcoming schedule that Michigan has. And the opener is a week from Saturday is where we are sitting. And it'll be New Mexico. And we're going to look at the offensive coordinators and the schemes that Michigan is going to be presented with. I think I could, nothing against you guys or Coach Moore or Wink or anybody else. I think I could coach Michigan to a victory against New Mexico, but I'm not so sure after that. Oklahoma, what are we looking at when you start looking at the different offenses that Michigan will face this year?
Denny, I've listened to these guys on the Big Ten Network, and I've done some history and research of them. And there's some similarities with a couple teams we play. Some of these guys work together, and Wink and the staff. You're looking at a profile of a guy. So the Oklahoma guy is going to be a lot of empty. They've got a quarterback that can run and throw. They're different than USC. He's going to be different than Wisconsin, but that combination, athletic quarterback, and what he's more of an empty throw the ball guy. That's Oklahoma. I'll talk about Nebraska real quick. Dana Holgerson is a creative guy. He's a hard to predict guy. They want to spread the football and run the ball. They want to spread the football and run the football. And he's got his quarterback back, started 13 games, Raiola. That's going to be a hell of a tough combination. Holgerson, Raiola, damn good combination. Oklahoma, good combination. Mateer in that scheme. Those guys are a little different, though, offensively. Any comments, or Danny, before I move on?
I didn't go through their offenses as much as I was looking at our stuff. But when you look at that schedule, and if you're breaking in a new quarterback, you're going to need your defense to keep you in the games. And we have a defense that can keep us in the games for a young quarterback. And Oklahoma is kind of in Michigan's shoes. They got a really good defense, but their offense is, maybe their weak link. So our strength being the defense, that keeps us in the game. It's on the road. It's a tough game, big environment, SEC team, freshman quarterback. Defense is going to have to keep us in. And we have good DBs and great linebackers. And if they're spreading them out at Oklahoma, at least I think our guys are up to that task. This is the second year with Wink. They know the system, and I believe that they're a lot more comfortable starting this season than they are last year, obviously. And so I don't know what they throw at us. Dominic Raiola in Nebraska, we know what they want to do. Matt Rule's a good coach, but he's still a sophomore, and we have a bunch of upperclassmen on the other side of the ball that he's got to face. And our defensive line with those linebackers and returning DBs, that gives us a fighting chance, right? So I'm good with and it's, 2 road games, not easy. 2 road games in 4 weeks and then get a bye. That'll play well for us, I think.
Yeah, then you just keep going. You got 3 road games in those first, 6 games. They don't have back-to-back home games, and that other road game is going to be USC. So heading out to Norman and then Lincoln and then LA for the first 3 road trips is going to tell a lot about the season. And that's where I sit when I think about Oklahoma. Right now, Michigan's in play for getting into the postseason if things come together for them. I'll tell you, if they beat Oklahoma, I'm going to go from, they're in play and I think they can get there. It's going to be close to, man, I really think that this team's got a shot to make the postseason. That's how big this Oklahoma game is. And I don't know. I think a question for you guys that I think about is that you got Ben Arbuckle, who was he's a young guy. He's not 30 years old. He had a lot of success with Mateer at Washington State, but they're transferring up. The good news for them is that they've got these 2 together. They should have a pretty good defense, knowing that what Venables is known for. So these 2 guys and what Michigan's going to be able to do against this offense that was it's known for high scoring and being pass heavy, how that sets up for Wink and his defense. It looks pretty good to me, but this is obviously going to be a tough one.
Denny, I say this because as a former coach, I had 3 weeks before a first game. That's not much in high school. These guys have 5 weeks. They had all spring before their first game. I guarantee you that Wink worked on Buckeyes, Michigan State, Oklahoma, US. He had whatever they do. He would have studied all them offensive coaches. And whatever they do that might be unique to that team, we would have worked on. Like I know Michigan State runs outside zone Northwestern. I listen to him. Those guys run outside zone. We really don't run outside zone. So that's what I got for the Michigan State and Wisconsin and Northwestern. Those guys are going to hammer outside zone. We don't really run that play. And we would have worked on that in spring, and we would have worked on it in the fall. So those guys, that would be my message about those 2 teams, Wisconsin and USC. The Wisconsin's offensive coordinator worked under USC last year. He's worked under the guy at Kansas. He's going to be a creative guy. He's been around a long time. I was highly impressed listening to him. But there'll be similar to the USC stuff. So USC will have the UNLV transfer with Lincoln Riley, tough combination. Wisconsin will have they got the Maryland quarterback with what they want to do. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, Denny, all these guys, because maybe, I'm getting ahead and we don't need to talk about game 9 and that. But I guess my point to everybody is this. Wink would have worked on these 5 weeks, the unique best stuff that our offense doesn't run to give our defense a look. You follow me? Those are the things you do in that 5-week period opposed to game week. When a player sees something in August and you spend a practice on it or two and he doesn't see it again, but now when he sees it game 9, it's like, okay, it's easier to reflect back and you know what I mean? And carry that over because you've already spent time on it. So that's what you do in these times. That's what coaches are doing these 5 weeks, touching on the unique stuff that the people we're going to face. And outside zone is a perfect example of what Michigan State wants to do.
This kind of gets into my field of expertise for the team, which is the demonstration team. Those guys play a huge factor in how they're prepared, how the team's prepared. And I spent 4 years on demo. I got to play in the games. I traveled some, but my job with Michigan football was the demonstration team. And we put a lot of time into that. And we watched film just like the starters and the second string did, and how those guys perform in practice, showing our offense what Oklahoma's defense is going to do, or showing them what Nebraska's going to do. It's a huge, huge part of the preparation. And those guys will get at it starting next week. We'll finish up camp Saturday night. Come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the demonstration teams, that's when that's their season. Their season starts on Monday. And I believe you hit it right on the head, Jim. Wink knows how to prepare. And I think he proved that last year, even with guys that were out in the big games at the end of the season. The guys that were there were very well prepared, and they won. And they held Ohio State to 10 points. I mean, that's amazing. And that's what Wink's capable of doing. That's what this defense is capable of doing. And the demo team, important guys out there, my guys.
It makes me wonder, John, that I've seen Jaden Davis play in the spring game, and they bring in Jake Garcia. Will he be able to, if he is not in the top 2, if he's not the backup quarterback for the opener or the game against Oklahoma, will he be on the demonstration team? John Mateer, can he, simulate the running? Can he be somebody like Dylan Raiola?
Yeah, I mean,
our last year.
The coaches are going to set up the starting lineup, the second string guy and the third string guy. And then you need a competent quarterback for the demonstration team. Would it be the fourth string guy? Probably. You also have Herb Street, and I don't know who the other walk-on quarterbacks are, but you need a guy that can do what your opponent's going to show you. And if that's a running guy, you need somebody that can demonstrate that. It might not even be a quarterback on our team. We might have a kid that's playing on defense, but in high school, he was a running, throwing quarterback. I've jumped over to the other side of the ball. When we played Nebraska in the Fiesta Bowl, I was defensive player, but they needed an offensive lineman for the Fiesta Bowl. So I asked Bo, hey, if you need somebody, I'll play it. And that's how I got to travel to the Fiesta Bowl, by doing what it takes. So yes, Garcia could be the guy, or, Herb Street or somebody else, but they'll find the right guy to make sure that they're getting a good look.
Yeah, Danny, I'm going to follow up one more point on the importance of the demonstration team. Bo told us as players, and we did the best we could. And I really realized that when you're coaching, you got to give your team the exact look they're going to see. It can't be kind of like they run it. It has to be exactly the way the enemy runs a play. Bo had one of his best friends, legendary Alex Agassi, when Dew and I were playing, run the defensive demo. Ag was the head coach at Northwestern, head coach at, I think, Purdue. Anyway, you can look him up. Legend. That was Bo's man. That was his guy. So he ran the defensive demo look to give the offense a good look, exactly how, Northwestern, Michigan State ran whatever it is they ran. but he had the ear of Coach Schembechler. So Bo would say, he'd say, hey, take a look at Duerr. Take a look at Scarcelli. He's making it happen down there on Demo. So as players, we knew we had a guy that was looking after us. You know what I mean, Du? But I understood it. You and I both have played and coached. We understood it as players. But it's so important as you go into you talk about that Ohio State game, keeping that team to 10 points. I guarantee you that the Demo squad that was simulating what Ohio State was doing that week in practice, it was right on, because we had answers. We were throwing stuff, and we had to get a good look in practice to be able to do those things. So that's some general football stuff. And yeah, it's it was so it's so important in football.
Yeah, we're normally 3 times a week, 2:00. Good afternoon, Michigan football, and Mondays a staple with Jim Scarcelli at 2:00. But the schedule a little bit different these last 2 weeks. Have been going in the morning. We have a special guest, John Duerr, who played at Michigan, Dearborn, number 51. And, I know him mostly from watching his work on Twitter throughout the college football season, throughout the Michigan season, with the low-hanging fruit film analysis, which is a lot of fun. Now I'm putting 2 and 2 together. Scar, he puts the film on and he just gets a big smile on his face. I mean, he loves, he's drawing this X, he's, putting it over. And then, John, you kind of the same thing. I mean, you guys are cut from the same cloth when it comes down to that. I wanted to ask you, I mentioned Jake Garcia, who is a transfer that came in. When you look at all the different Michigan transfers this year, they've done a nice job in the transfer portal. It was only a couple of years ago that people were wringing their hands a little bit, saying, Michigan's got to make an adjustment with the transfer portal. They're going to get beat in the transfer portal. They're getting beat in recruiting. They seem to figure both of those parts out. But this year, Garcia is one of them. They've got a slew of others that they're, I think, depending on who jumps out. John, we'll start with you. Who you think jumps out, who will be a big-time contributor out of the transfer portal for Michigan this year?
For me, it's going to be Trey Williams on the defensive line. Came from Clemson. He played a lot of games, 44 games he played there. This kid is a big nose guard. He is cut out to be a nose guard. He's got legs the size of tree trunks. And when you're losing Mason Graham, who was an absolute destruction in the middle there, you need somebody that can fill in the hole. Trey Williams is going to be able to fill in the hole. And on the other side of the ball, obviously the guy that stands out is McCulley. Big, tall receiver, played a lot of games at Indiana, even played quarterback against us a few years ago when he was there. And big, tall guy. I think that he, and if Bryce is the starter, I'm not saying he's going to be, but my personal opinion is yes. But I think that McCulley and Bryce are going to have a nice relationship on the field. I think that that's going to be his security blanket. This is a big, tall guy with good hands. He can go up and get the ball, and you need somebody like that. So that's a huge pickup for Michigan is McCulley. TJ Metcalf in the backfield, another guy that played a lot of games. And then, of course, Justice Haynes. This guy played a lot of football at Alabama. Had a lot, 600 and something yards, I believe it was last year. Top 30 recruit. We see how we use our running backs. And we saw what happens when you only have one. Mullings last year. I mean, Edwards obviously, but for the hard hitting into the line, kind of got to grind out those yards. That was Mullings. Well, now I think we have two. And I think that's going to be a nice compliment for the running game because we're going to rely on that as much as anything. So those guys stand out. And we have a bunch of returners, but these pickups, Damon Payne as well, another guy out of Alabama. So those guys stand out as the big transfers this year.
For me, guys, I think the real special one is the receiver, McCulley. Now, when Jim brought in Josiah Stewart, that was an upgrade because maybe we didn't do the greatest job recruiting. when he went and got the Barner kid from Indiana. That was an upgrade because maybe there was, again, it was an obvious upgrade. Now, here's how I look at Williams and Payne. Those guys are good football players. But I think we've recruited pretty damn good in there with Pierce and Benny. It's not like, when I look at those two guys, the Clemson kid, okay, are they going to really elevate? Are they better than those two? I don't know that they're better than them. We're going to find. I'm real high, guys. I'm real high. If I had to bet, when we go out against Oklahoma, it's Pierce and Benny.
Sure.
That's my because I think we've done a good job recruiting, and so yeah, we brought in good inside guys there, but McCulley is a special kid. And I think he's going to have a hell of a year. From what I've seen of that kid, watching him on spring game, going to the spring game, he's a factor. He's a problem, and I'm hoping he makes the job easy for the quarterback. Another kid, I don't know if we call him a this year transfer, but I've been waiting to hear from him because I was highly impressed with this kid when he was at Michigan State, is the Mangum kid. Now, Sharon Moore mentioned him the other day. Okay, so he was a freaking athletic, tough kid. I remember watching him in high school. So Mangum's name is getting brought up. So I'm big on McCulley. I'm big on Mangum. I think the other guys, we've recruited well at running back. I don't know that the Alabama running back is going to, really, okay, he's going to contribute. But I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that we've recruited well, and some of those transfers are going to be supplemental, in my opinion, other than McCulley.
Well, I just think that you need especially on the defensive line, you need bodies that are capable, because you saw how much that Grant and Graham played last year, and it's a long season, and it's brutal, and you need guys. We can't have a defensive line, the second unit come in, that's just the quick 16. And I think Williams and Payne and these other guys are going to help not only shore up the starting lineup, but of course the backups. And the backups play, Jim used to say he didn't have a starter, right? He had 20 starters. Maybe a guy was the first one out on the field on the first play, but the other guy was in there 2-3 plays later. And these guys are vital to keep the line strong, fresh, and obviously in case of injury.
Of course, the special teams department, both kickers are via the transfer portal, with Zavada and then Hollenbach. And if it's not Hollenbach, they went to the transfer portal again. They got a kicker out of a local guy, but one that was at Division 3 Penn in Hunter Robertson. So they're getting special teams additions via the transfer portal as well. Rashad, no, we have not changed the time. Although if you've watched the last 2 weeks, you'd say, well, you could fool me. I've just special morning editions with Michigan being in football camp. They're moving around some of their availability. And so that's why we moved. And that's, there's great things about radio, TV, podcasts. One of the great things about podcasts is flexibility. Here we are in the morning when we usually go at 2 o'clock. So that's what's going on there. If you have any questions, you can fill them up. John Duerr is our guest, a former Wolverine, overlapped with Scar for a year. John, was Scar one of those upperclassmen who, I don't know, leaned heavily on the freshman one way or the other? You recall?
I'll tell you a story real quick here.
Okay.
So I walked on at Michigan, small school out of high school, out of Dearborn here, Dearborn, St.Alphonsus. My dream was to play college football, but, dreams are one thing. Reality is what's reality. Well, thanks to Lloyd Carr, I got the opportunity to walk on at Michigan. And I got up there, and the freshmen report early, right? And you're there a few days early. We have dinner, we talk, whatever, and we go out there with just helmets and shorts. And the freshmen just start to get a taste of what college football is like. And then the upperclassmen come in. And Scarcelli was about the first one that I saw. And I remember we had a meeting. I was actually an outside linebacker when I started. So I was in the same room with him, with Milo. And I'm sitting there looking at this guy, and I'm not kidding you. I mean, these guys now, the team is there to prepare for the first game in the season. So you freshmen, you're to be seen but not heard. Just go do your job, probably on the demo team, but pay attention. And this is what we're here for, these guys. And I sat there in that meeting, and I'm not kidding you. I almost called my mom to come get me because I was so far out of my element that here's Jim Scarcelli, 6'5", carved out of granite, and just a stud on the football field. And then every guy there was an all-stater, and half of them were all-American. And I'll tell you what, man, it was intimidating. But Scar right away took me under his wing, showed respect, helped me learn, showed me how to do it, showed me how the whole thing works. We had fun on the field. We had fun off the field. And I've looked up to Scar since I got there that first day.
Well, some things haven't changed when it comes down to Scar. That's kind of how he has treated all of us here on the Maize and Blue Review. So we like that. We've got two quick questions, and then we're going to ask about the transition from fall camp getting into game week. Ferris is asking about Babalola. He's a true freshman, and the possibility that he could be a Bubba Paris or a Mason Cole. Says he's going to be a good offensive lineman as a freshman. He's very smart, but it's really hard to be a good offensive lineman as a freshman. How about your thoughts on Babalola?
You know the thing about that, Ferris, oftentimes when you see freshmen playing, it's because they didn't recruit well. Or the kid is just freaking really, really, really good. Okay. Babalola is a darn good football player. The problem is Link is a damn good football player, and Sprague is a damn good football player. Link, this is when I know dude knows his football, Denny. I was asking about who had the most important block in the Ohio State game. And, he mentioned right away Evan Link reaching big mouth for Mulling's big run. That's another subject. But that tells me dude knows football. But playing as a freshman, a big part of it has to do not so much how good are you, is did they make a mistake in recruiting? Is there some weak links in there? And Babalola is running into some serious competition. So that's the answer to that question, in my opinion.
Yeah, you can have a freshman quarterback, or you can have a freshman wide receiver, or even a running back, because these guys, speed translates. You know what I mean? Athleticism translates. But when you're on the offensive line, now you're going against 22, 23-year-old men, and you're 18 years old. There is just a physical difference. And then the offensive line is complex, and you need to know the calls and who you're getting. You got to know who to target. It is a lot for an offensive lineman, and I know that Babalola is a smart guy. I think Jim had mentioned that. He sat down and talked with him and just came away super impressed with this guy's intelligence. And he's a big kid, and he's athletic, but he's still a freshman, and it's a big, big jump from high school to college. It's enormous.
Well, that leads me to an obvious question that I'm going to get to, but I don't know if this makes any sense to you. John, a famous cousin story, if possible. Does that make any sense to you?
Famous cousin story. That one slips my mind.
Okay. Well,
Trevor's going to have to allude to my famous cousin.
Help us out there, Trevor. Well,
wait a minute.
You do know
what it is.
All right.
We were playing Hawaii, right?
Okay.
And we're out in Hawaii playing the game, and the boys go to a restaurant after the game, and it's late night, and boys are being boys, and there's girls in the room, and Jim's gonna chat with the girls, and his opening line was, you see that guy over there? Who's that guy look like? And she's questioning, thinking, and he says, that's Huey Lewis's cousin over there. Because I kind of look like Huey Lewis, I suppose. But anyway, Jim threw me around as Huey Lewis's cousins to try and hit on chicks.
But Scarcelli or Jim Harbaugh? Oh, this one, Scar.
This one, Scar. Did I say Harbaugh?
No, when you said Jim, I was thinking, well, there's Jim.
Our boy Scar over here.
If it's Scar or Harbaugh when it comes down to that. Well, John, let me go right back to you because you mentioned Babalola. That's different than playing in the Kansas high school ranks. It's different when Belleville goes into Howell to play in the state playoffs than it is if Bryce Underwood's the quarterback going down to Norman, Oklahoma. I mean, how do you see the transition for the still, I can only say it for one more day, 17-year-old quarterback?
Well, so I think the difference when you get to these specialists and these skilled guys, the linemen are more skilled than the quarterbacks and the running backs. But if you have a strong arm, that translates. All right, you can have a strong arm as a freshman. Running ability. The thing about a freshman quarterback that he'll have the hardest time with is reading defenses. The opposing defenses are going to try and confuse this guy, and they're going to want to disguise coverage, and they're going to want to bring pressure from where he's not expecting it. But he's got scramble ability, he's got wheels, and he's got a strong arm. Those three things can carry a quarterback, even if he's young. A big offensive lineman going against, again, a 22, 23-year-old guy, he's right up in your face. And you're taking that on, right at the point of contact at the snap of the ball. Quarterback's got a chance to react. This lineman has literally a second to make sure that this guy doesn't go in front of him, around him, over him. It's a lot for a young lineman. So I just think that the quarterback or the wide receiver, even a running back, those guys can probably lean on their talent more than an offensive lineman can, because it's just such a power position.
Speaking of running backs, tomorrow, the highest rated running back in high school is making his decision on Bryce Underwood's birthday. Savion Hyder, who's out of Virginia. Oh, Scar, I know you work the phones tirelessly. You're talking with a lot of former Michigan players and coaches. I mean, you're rubbing on John. You're probably doing the same thing. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts or indication on what Hyder may do, but there's the question for you on the eve of his commitment.
Hey, let's get it, Denny. We got momentum, man. The recruits are believing. Sharon Moore's getting it done on the recruiting trail. People are believing, and let's. Kid wants to play with. You got Corum out there. We got a good history with running backs, man. You want people going to block for you? You want to run the football? We'll get you ready for the NFL.
If you're a running back looking for a place to run the ball, Michigan's a good place to go.
And nothing. I know he said we're not talking about what Friday or anything, but nothing helps turning the page and getting on with the season more than the best running back in the country. If Michigan was able to land them, talk about putting everything in the rearview mirror. The excitement. It would just be out of sight. If they could do that. I mean, so a lot of things. They say timing is everything. How this is played out, that would be some great news if they could, land Hyder, of course. No, there it is. All right, so the transition today, I mentioned week 0. We've got some games on Saturday, and then I love the Labor Day weekend. I've already looked at the menu of games. Thursday, there's some 2 9:00 games, 2 Big Ten teams that Michigan's playing at the same time. The ability to, bounce back and forth. Friday's the annual Michigan State game that, that's fun to watch. And of course, Saturday of Labor Day weekend, but you also have, a little Sunday, Monday action in there. Great 4 or 5 days consecutively. But, we do have week 0, but it is for Michigan training camp over. And now they make the transition into game week. How is that going to materialize? You guys give us some inside perspective on that.
Denny, in training camp, my 5 years at Michigan, and then as a coach, you're working on the mind and the culture of your team. You're pounding team. You're doing things together. You're working on the fundamentals. You're going to work on the 12 people on your schedule a little bit from a football standpoint. But I remember as a player, the coaches had the seniors talk individually. Dude, I don't know if you did it later on. the defensive play. Each senior would talk to the defense. Each coach of the defensive staff would talk to the defense. And this is about, it's got not so much anything to do with football. It's about building a brotherhood, and you're building team in that training camp. You're building toughness, you're working fundamentals, and you're doing all those things. And as you get into training camp, or once you get done with that, and you're done, you're happy when that's done because you want to get into game week. And now you're focusing on New Mexico. And, what do they do? What do we got to stop? How are we going to line up and scheme and rotation and that kind of thing? So that's really, Denny, the transition, how that plays out is you're working on the overall culture of a football team. And then when you get into game week, then you're focusing on that team.
You just get done 5 weeks of grueling practice. You are practicing or studying or living football all day, every day for the past 5 weeks. And you can't help but come closer as a team because you got to pick up your teammate once in a while in fall camp. It's hot, it's grueling, it's long, and it wears on a kid. I don't care if he's 18, 22, whatever. It wears on a guy. So this is team building as much as, getting these guys ready to play. They come out of camp. You all feel like you survived camp, and now we're putting all that work together, and it starts now. They'll break camp on Saturday, get these guys into their dorm rooms or their apartments or wherever they're going to be, and then come Monday, man, go to class, get down to the football building, and here we are. The season's here, and it's go time, and it's all business then.
I was glad that Sharon Moore last week said that come the 25th, he'll make the announcement on who was going to be the starting quarterback. That was different from last year, that when he got to his first ever Monday as the head coach, he was like, the competition's still ongoing. It's like, wait, you just had all fall camp. The competition's still ongoing. And that wasn't a good sign for me. I think that going with the quarterback, he might as well at that point say, okay, yeah, Link's going to be the left tackle wherever he wants it to be. And it's going to be a Phobie over at right guard. And, we're good to go. I think, to me, that's, I don't know, important. It's something that I would like to hear who's going to be the starting quarterback, who's going to be the starters on the offensive line. Am I reading too much into that, John? I know Scar's thoughts. I ask him all the time about this. What are your thoughts there?
I can tell you this. The players know, right? They know who's the best player at each position. And I think that wanting to know, or Sharon telling us who's going to start, that's just the fans clamoring for some information. But the players, they're still battling, but I think they're a pretty good idea of who's getting trotted out there on the first game. And so do we need to know? Frankly, I'm under the opinion that we're not entitled to anything. You know what I mean? We're fans. We enjoy the game. Sharon doesn't owe us anything to tell us or inform us. Whatever happens, happens. Those players know what's going on in the program inside the locker room. So, I mean, to me, I don't care if he says it or not.
You sound like Scar. So with that question, we got speculation question for you, right up your guys' alley. True Blue Tom wants to know, if we're giving that Bryce Underwood's going to be the starter, who would be the backup quarterback?
Looking at what we know now, I mean, looking at the spring game, you got to, Jaden Davis he's going to keep getting better. He's going to keep getting stronger. I'm a believer in him. And then the Garcia kid has started 15 games. So we talked about, you heard my thoughts, Denny, that who they put in, who's the second quarterback in that game, that will be the guy that if something happens at Oklahoma in the third quarter and Bryce gets a little tweak, a little hamstring or something, who they going to put in? And that's the guy you put in New Mexico. You put him in against New Mexico. So that you will know who the hell that guy is.
When do you put him in against New Mexico? What if it's 35-0 at the half? When do you put? Let's just say it's Jaden Davis, either Scar or John. You want to jump? When would you put? Let's say it's Jaden Davis. When are you giving him snaps? Are you letting him start the third quarter if it's 35-0? What are you doing there?
No, I'm not putting him in to start the third quarter. You have a freshman quarterback that needs as many reps as he can possibly get. So if theoretically or hypothetically that they're up 35-0, Bryce has got to come out and start the third quarter, because the defense, the other team's going to make some adjustments. Okay. They're not going to lie down after the halftime. So we want to see how this guy comes out of the locker room after a break. He's got a big lead. He's feeling good. Everybody's excited that they're up 35-0. Still got to come out in that second half and play football. And you want to test your freshman quarterback and the rest of the team. Hey, what are you going to do when you're up 35-0? Sit on that score or keep playing? After that, a drive or two, then I might start thinking about who's my second string quarterback and getting in some time. And then in the fourth quarter, my third string guy, because they may have already made the decision on who's the starting quarterback, but I can promise you 2 and 3 are still battling it out.
Yeah, Denny, one more thought on training camp. Listening to Sharon Moore, that I really liked hearing as a former player and understands this. He aligns the whole 5-week deal. He gets with the strength coach and the diet people, all the training staff, and they are looking at the overall health of the players as they go through that 5-week period. Dude, we were beat up. We went through doubles and it was just brutal. You lost strength. You lost weight. It made no sense. The mentality was whatever. But these guys, and he talked about it. So I was really, really happy to hear Sharon. That's why these guys don't lose weight as they go through the season. I lost 12, 15 pounds. You lose strength. Anyway, I liked hearing that. Strength and conditioning is aligned. They got a big the big scrimmage they had this past weekend was supposed to be crucial in making final decisions. So they probably have a damn good idea where they're going with everything now, dude. That was the big one. They might have something again, maybe Thursday or Friday, a modified thing. We used to have, I think, the big one on Friday to give you an extra day to recover if somebody got dinged. I think that's how we used to do it. But that's where that is. And one more thing I heard Sharon Moore say is he talked about Chip meshing with his beliefs and views. And I covered this a couple of weeks ago that, the offensive coordinator ain't just going to do what the hell he wants to do. No. Sharon Moore hired him. This guy was a head coach at Troy. He's been in football for 30 years. And, they're going to sit down. They're going to go, well, what do you believe in? Well, what do I believe in? What did he run when he was a head coach? So anyway, he talked about meshing. So we're going to get a feel for how that mesh looks. And hopefully it's creative, it's chaotic and confusing for the defense, but we're damn good with fundamentals and we're good with those things. So he talked about the mesh, and I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago. People say, "Oh no, the offensive coordinator don't do what the hell he wants to do." It's not how it works. You work under this guy. It's his belief system. You got to figure out how you work together. And then one last thing that I'm hoping, Brian Hartline at Ohio State, this will be his first time as an offensive coordinator. So I'm looking at that Texas game. I'm going to be watching that Ohio State Texas game to see just where are they with him and Ryan Day. Just something to be looking at opposed to Chip and what he's had. But good stuff, man.
Real good. Can't wait for these games to start. And that game, Texas Ohio State, a lot of intrigue in that. Two top teams going at it, but two guys that are starting for the first time. That'll be interesting. That's, you take a loss early in the season, in a 12-team playoff, you don't have a lot to worry about, especially when it's a top 5 team. But it's going to be interesting to see how the coordinator, both coordinators, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Ohio State's got a new DC and Matt Patricia, and then Hartline, and then we have Arch Manning starting for Texas for the first time. So great intrigue. I'm so happy football's back.
How about a pick in that game, you guys?
Buckeyes at home. Dude, this is old school. This is old school college football. No transfer starting the football game. Both guys highly recruited. big time, highly recruited guys. They don't get any more highly recruited than those two quarterbacks, and they've never started a football game. So this old school football, guys that went through the system and doing that. So I'm going to take the Buckeyes at home.
Yeah, I think at home, it's going to be a tight ball game, I would expect. But yeah, I'd give Buckeyes probably the edge in that one.
Hey, another thing that I liked, Denny, Sharon Moore talked about, TNT, today, not tomorrow. I like that. That's a as a coach, you always have a couple of other little battle cry. I mean, my thing was always team. That was the number one word my players always heard from me. But you always got other little stuff you might throw in year to year. And one last thing I got to get one of them T-shirts. They got "Team Over Me."
I was just going to mention that.
Oh man, I blew your thunder there.
No. It's a great shirt.
I love it. Sharon Moore has got that all over the building, man. That's a great thing. Team Over Me. I got to get a T-shirt. I got to get one. Got to go down there and swipe a couple.
Good luck with that. You have probably a better relationship with Johnny Falk than me, so you persuade him to get me a shirt. Get yourself one. See if they can get one for Denny.
XXX.
I'm working on it.
What are we doing?
I'm working on it.
What are we doing
I'm
here?
messing with you, D. You're looking chiseled, man.
I mean, you got to take with what, you got to TMT it today, not tomorrow. I mean, so I can't really tell you about what's tomorrow. I'm dealing with what's going on today. So there you go. All right. Well, hey, that is going to do it. You got any final thoughts, John? We put you through the ringer here.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's great to see Scar again, and I've been listening to you, Dennis, for a long time. I've been obviously a sports radio fan, and I remember going way back when you started in Detroit. And I enjoyed being here. I appreciate it. Hopefully we can do it again. But man, thank God it's football season.
Fired up, Danny. It's all good. Go blue, man. We are we're talking football. We're not talking NCAA. That's some other network, but you ain't getting that from Scar.
That is it. All right. John Duerr, our special guest. It was great having him on. Always great to see Scar. And we'll see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. Go to on3.com and then push that button. Push that button that says subscribe to the Maize and Blue Review. And I would say, there's probably about 5 or 6 days of the year that you'd say, this is the best time to subscribe. Today, a week out from the start of the season, is one of those days. So we'll see you over on the Den of the Maize and Blue Review. Guys, great job. And have a great day and great week. And football is here, like you said. Talk to you guys soon.
Go Blue.